Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Are you sick of silver? You know, that is a question I think most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, would probably be pretty disgusted from time to time with silver. And not necessarily the metal itself. It is an amazing metal. It has the most reflectivity. It is the most conductive, and it is quite an amazing. Has some amazing properties to it in terms of its uses and its physical properties. Indeed, it is a beautiful metal, and it comes in many different various forms in the physical, especially in terms of collectible silver, from the many different finishes and its malleability makes it the perfect metal that's fungible to be expressed in many different forms of art, from struck silver, poured silver, coins, rounds, bars, and the like. So in that aspect, really, it's difficult to be sick of silver, but in many ways, if you're a collector, keeping up with series and different ways that it is shown and marketed to us, we could probably get sick of that. You know, the many different choices. Many of us, including myself as a collector, sort of feel like, you know, it's been, the market's saturated to some degree in terms of the offerings out there. It makes it difficult to keep and collect series and pay high premiums, knowing that really it's difficult and a lot of unknowns as to whether or not you'll be able to recapture those premiums at the time of selling. But we enjoy it. We understand that not necessarily that is the reason why we accumulate the metal as a collector. As a pure stacker, it is understandable why one would get sick of silver, especially in terms of its price and also its storage when the price is really low. We're going to explore that in this video because I want to encourage the community, those of you who have purchased silver, especially when the price was high. We have to take a look at history. We have to take a look and understand what has been happening with the silver price and its offerings going back as late as the late 80s for silver. You know, silver's price, if you take a look at a chart adjusted for inflation, by most measures, it has retained its price, its value, based off of its price for inflation through that period of time. However, if you pick and choose dates and particular times, it does not perform to that measure. That is what most of us would consider a time when silver is on sale. You know, because it's understanding what silver is as that insurance policy, as that ultimate hedge. When things are doing well, then that means that silver could potentially be priced under its inflated value based off of the dollar index or what the dollar is worth. And if that's the case, it's a good time to pick it up. It's also a horrible time and a good reason to be sick of the metal if you need to sell it at that time, especially if you paid a price for it at inflation values or above inflated values. And by the way, there are plenty of times when silver is priced above the amount of inflation. And for those who think they're going to get rich off of silver, well, they're sadly mistaken, because silver is not one of those metals that I believe should be viewed in that context. So, looking back through history, and especially after 1964 here in the United States, when President Johnson took us off of the silver standard, so to speak. In other words, silver was literally put into our money, as you see here with these half dollars and these dimes. 1964 was the last year that we contained 90% silver in our coinage. So that was the value. That was what backed it up. In a sense, we were on a silver standard, as were many other nations around the world. But then silver got too expensive, and inflation. Of course, the Federal Reserve Act was well established and was being implemented, and policies were being driven, interest rates and the like. And so, therefore, the dollar started losing value for the metal contained therein. But with that being said, silver, after that period of time and continuing on, especially since the late 80s, we could see in charts that tracking the price of silver, it's pretty amazing to see exactly how stable it was, well under $10. But in 1988, for instance, silver was higher and it started to go down pretty substantially, and it stayed down for quite a while. And I remember those times. Now, I was not a hardcore stacker, but I did buy enough silver that I knew the price, and I languished and lamented in some ways. Why isn't this doing anything? It's just kind of sitting here. And even after the attacks of 9/11, the price of silver didn't do much. In 2002 was $4 and some odd change for an ounce of silver for quite a long time. It really wasn't until 2004 that we saw sort of the price move its way upwards. It wasn't until 2006 that we actually saw it break that $10 amount, $10 an ounce amount. And it started to rise since then. So that was before, by the way, that was before the crisis of 2007, 2008, before people even thought about it. In fact, we were in an economic boom, recovery at that time. We were doing very well, just coming off the dot-com bubble, which sort of burst, but it didn't create really much of a problem in the economy. And it wasn't until 2007, 2008 where we saw that, and the price of silver just kind of steadily rose up. And then, obviously, we had 2011 for a very short amount of time where it reached that high 40s mark. And I think that is where most people's gauges are. They're thinking back to that period of time. But that was an anomaly, really. But the steady increase up to that point was very real and natural in my view. And ever since then, well, it wasn't really that price movement upwards. The new era of silver, I believe, was after 2011. And so you take those couple days or month out when silver was priced abnormally high. You take that away, and you're seeing a performance in silver, which I think is quite paramount. Now, it did drop back, but we created a new floor, I believe. Whereas the floor was under $10 before, but let's just say $10, we're well above that now, and I think by even the most skeptical among us would not make a case for $10 silver at this point. It is frustrating to see the price move, especially as wildly as it kind of has over the years, but in the end, when you average it all out, especially since 2006, when it got to over $10 an ounce, you take that into account, and you are looking at an asset that has performed exactly as it should. And so I think we should take heart, and we should also be patient with the silver that we accumulate. Dollar cost average, there's something to be said for that, because that is where you're really going to see the performance of silver for what it is, as an asset class that preserves your wealth. Because people don't make buys at one particular price point and then wait, a long time. Typically, stackers, the smart silver stacker, I believe, is making purchases in some form or another through multiple price points, high or low. And now, obviously, when the price is high, I believe it's wise to buy less, even buying less than your budget allows, and buy a little bit more when the price is lower. Take a look at a 20-year chart. Take a look at a 30-year chart. Average it all together, and make your buys based off of that. Find your own level, your own price point, to where you feel like it's a deal at below a certain level, and it's less of a it's more of a risk at a higher price level. And make that a good stacking goal for you, because I believe this metal that you see before you here is something that will frustrate us. It will make us happy. It will give us confidence and courage that we're doing the right thing. But I believe in the end, it's better to trust this metal than the fiat dollars that we're spending, because we know that they're losing every year. No question. That's not to take away from their value, by the way. There's something about cash. There's something about holding cash, and I believe it's valuable to do so. But in our diversification portfolios, having silver is a way to diversify as an asset class that will, in the long run, preserve your wealth. We just have to be patient. We have to be just consistent and diligent with our purchases. So I hope you found this video helpful, and maybe it will give you an easier feeling, so that maybe won't be quite as sick of silver as we move forward here. But keep your hopes up, keep hope alive, as they say, and because silver is alive, and it is a way to preserve our wealth in the long run. So I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to y'all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.